The Western and Eastern Conference Finals have been set, with the Mavs taking down the Thunder in 6 and both the Timberwolves and Pacers both winning Game 7 on Sunday. Both conference finals matchups have been set. On Tuesday, the Eastern Conference Finals will begin as Boston, the top-seeded Celtics, who have been waiting for almost a week, will take on the underdog Pacers. The Pacers upset the Knicks in the second round to advance to their first Eastern Conference Finals since 2014. The Celtics had the best record this season with an impressive 64-18 record. They are led by a perennial all-star Jason Tatum, and don't forget Jaylen Brown, who quietly also had a nice season as well. The Celtics will be heavily favored in this series, especially with having the best record. They got past the first 2 rounds pretty easily. They took on the Heat, who have been their Achilles heel the last 2 years. However, with all the injuries to the Heat and Jimmy Butler also being out with an injury, Boston had no problem getting past Miami. The Celtics were able to take down the Heat in a quick 5-game series. In their next matchup, which was against the Cavs, and even though the Celtics were much better, this was supposed to be a good series. But in Game 3, Donovan Mitchell suffered a calf strain. It caused him to miss the rest of the series. Mitchell torched the Celtics in Game 2 and 3. The Louisville product scored a combined 62 points. It was good enough for the Cavs to win Game 2, but not for Game 3. The Celtics are led by Tatum and the excellent play of veteran Al Horford. Boston got past the Cavs in 5 games as well. Since the start of the postseason, Jason Tatum has been averaging 27 points, 8 boards, 5 assists, and is shooting an impressive 47%. The Celtics bench has also been great with guys such as Peyton Pritchard, and once Porzingis returns, it will be even harder for the Pacers to take them down. Porzingis is not expected to return in Game 1 as he is still dealing with a calf strain. Boston really needs this because even though they have made the conference finals 5 of the last 7 years, they have only advanced to the finals once since then and lost to the Warriors in 6 games. On the other side, the Pacers came into the playoffs as a 6th seed. Led by Tyrese Halliburton, not much was expected from the Pacers, but they were able to upset the Bucks in the first round and win their first playoff series since 2014. 2014 was also the last time Indiana made the conference finals. That was when the Pacers were led by Paul George and Roy Hibbert. The Pacers came in the second round, once again as underdogs. They went to play the red-hot Knicks. New York was able to take the first 2 games, but only won by a combined 12 points. In Game 3 and 4, that was a different story. After the reffing in Game 2, Pacers head coach Rick Carlisle went to the NBA and complained, saying that small markets don't get the same type of calls as the big markets. It must have helped because the Pacers won both Game 3 and 4. The Pacers' new duo of Halliburton and Siakam, who they acquired at the deadline, scored a combined 61 points and won Game 3. They also went on to win Game 4 as well, but this time by double digits. The next 2 games, the Pacers and Knicks would both split, which would mean there would be a Game 7. Neither team had won a road game up until Game 7. Many expect the Knicks to win in Game 7 to advance to their first conference finals since 2000. Even ESPN thought the Knicks would win and were very outspoken about who they wanted to win. It was also going to be back in the Garden where the mecca of basketball is. But the unthinkable happened and the Pacers cruised to victory. Indiana won easily, 130-109, and once again Halliburton came up big for the Pacers. The Iowa State product dropped 26 points in the win and silenced the Knicks faithful. Yes, the Knicks were dealing with a lot of injuries that included Julius Randle, OG Anunoby, Mitchell Robinson, and even Brunson was dealing with an injury as well. But that was not an excuse to lose at home. Give the Pacers credit for taking down the Knicks in Madison Square Garden. This series promises to be a fun matchup as the Pacers take on the Celtics in the Eastern Conference Finals. For the West, we have the 3rd-seeded Timberwolves playing the 5th-seeded Mavericks. The T-Wolves are making their first appearance in the conference finals since 2004, while the Mavs will be playing in their second conference finals in the last 3 years. Both teams are way ahead of schedule as neither were really expected to get this far. Maybe the Mavericks, but definitely not the Timberwolves. Minnesota took down the defending champions. They won in 7 games, which included trailing 3-2, and were down by 15 at half in Game 7. However, led by the reincarnation of Michael Jordan, Anthony Edwards and company had a furious comeback and won 98-90 to advance to the conference finals. Edwards had 16 points, while Cat and McDaniels combined for 46. The T-Wolves will now be headed to just their second ever conference finals in franchise history. Minnesota played the Suns in the first round, and even though they had the better record, they were the underdog in the series. The Suns were led by the big 3 of KD, Booker, and Beal. However, the T-Wolves had no problem with the Suns and made quick work out of them by sweeping Phoenix out of the playoffs. The Timberwolves beat the Suns so badly that Phoenix fired Frank Vogel after just 1 year. Ant was dominating and made his comments clear on the Suns. The Timberwolves then took on the defending champs and the number 2 seeded Nuggets. The T-Wolves continued their winning streak and won the first 2 games of the series to take a 2-0 lead on the Nuggets, even without the Defensive Player of the Year, Rudy Gobert. The next 3 games, however, were dominated by the champs. Denver, led by Jokic, was able to take the next 3 games and was on the brink of making the conference finals for the 2nd straight year. But everything went wrong for the champs in game number 6 as they managed to only score 70 points. Everything was on the line for game 7. Denver started off hot and took a 53-38 lead going into half. It seemed as though the Nuggets were on their way to making the conference finals again. They even at one point had a 20-point lead. But the T-Wolves had a top-tier defense for a reason and held the Nuggets to less than 40%. The Nuggets also managed to score just 32 points in the second half. Minnesota scored 60 in the second half to clinch their 2nd Western Conference Finals in franchise history. The first game will be on Wednesday in Minnesota. The T-Wolves will take on the Mavs. For the Mavs, they were the 5th seed and took down the Clippers in the first round. The Mavs were blown out in game 1 and managed to only score 30 points in the first half. Despite the setback in game 1, the Mavs came back and took both game 2 and 3. Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving both performed well and had the Mavs playing excellent. They had another setback in game 4 as they fell to the Clippers at home. In game 4, Doncic struggled and shot less than 30% from the floor. He did have 29 points, though, in the loss. At one point, the Mavs were down by 23. In game 5 and 6, he returned to form and scored a combined 63 points to give the Mavs the series win and beating the Clippers for the first time in his career. Next for the Mavs was the top-seeded Thunder. They went toe-to-toe with the best team in the West. After getting blown out again in game 1 by 22 points, Dallas came back and won games 2 and 3. After OK responded with a win in game 4, the Mavs did not lose another game to the Thunder. During the series versus OKC, Mavs stars Doncic and Irving were the reason why Dallas upset the Thunder in the semifinals. Doncic almost averaged a triple-double as he had 24 points, 10 rebounds, 8.7 assists in 6 games versus the Thunder. Irving, on the other hand, averaged 15 points and 6 assists while having a 42% three-point percentage versus the Thunder. During the series, the Thunder would try to hack Derek Lively because he wasn't the best free throw shooter in the regular season. However, it backfired on the Thunder as he made 16 of his free throws. But the one call at the end in Game 6 was very controversial as they called a shooting foul on Shai Gilgeous-Alexander with 2.7 seconds left to play. At the time, the Thunder led 116-115. Even though many thought it was not a foul, they called it, and PJ Washington made the game-winning free throws. He ended up shooting 3 and made 2 of the 3. But despite the call, the Thunder blew their chances by allowing the Mavs to outscore them in the second half 69-52. At one point late in the first half, the Thunder did not score a single point in over 3 minutes. Now the Mavs will get a chance to make the finals for the first time since 2011. The series will likely be one of the best matchups as both teams are young and have a chance to make history. The Western Conference Finals will begin on Wednesday. Let me know who you guys like in this series and why. If there's something that you want to add, let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching.